On today's Hashi, I'm discussing this week's housing inventory, pending home sales from NAR, and the strongest housing markets entering 2025. Today is Monday, January 6th, 2025. I am Byron Lazine, and the hot sheet starts now. Good morning and welcome to the first Monday. I think it actually is officially the first Monday, as well as what really feels like the first Monday it is. If it's the 6th of January, it has to be the first Monday. All right. Welcome to the first Monday of 2025. We had our first hot sheet on Thursday of last week of the new year. Thanks to those of you that joined me on that Thursday, January the 2nd. But this really feels like now the start of the year. I know so many agents are hopeful that we'll have a light switch situation in January, a market pickup. Who's feeling it already in the comments? Who had conversations over the weekend that seem encouraging? Are you seeing signs of your market despite 7+% 30-year fixed interest rates, which looking at the 10-year today don't look like they're going to improve anytime in January? Despite that, who had conversations this weekend that felt encouraging? Not just from Lions fans, but from all sellers or would-be sellers in your community or would-be buyers. Who's feeling that they've got a little momentum right now, a tailwind, or is it too early to tell as we sit here on the first Monday in January? If you're new to the hot sheet, we do this show each and every single Monday through Thursday that the markets are open. The markets meaning the stock markets. Really, I think we hit 99% basically in 2024 of having this show up. It's the only 24-hour housing look back live on the internet each Monday through Thursday. So go ahead and hit subscribe right down below. Just go ahead. It's very easy. It's free too, by the way. Just hit subscribe and the notification bell here to the BAM YouTube channel. If you are new, we produce content like this, the real word, and the walkthrough here on this channel each and every single week. Go ahead, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will now jump right in. We've got what we do every single Monday, our weekly look back on housing inventory. On Thursday, we looked back kind of on an analysis of where we came from for the year. So you can go back and listen to that replay. It's always the replay remains here on the live tab on YouTube, or if you're a Spotify or Apple user, you can always get those replays there as well. What we're going to do today is what we traditionally do. Look at the last 7 days on the housing inventory look back. This is all per Altos research. And what we're trying to figure out is are we going to have enough inventory to meet early spring demand? Is inventory going to really get, I know in some places where, think Southwest Florida, Texas, you're above pre-pandemic levels. And we are at the most inventory we've seen since 2019, but that can be misleading because we're nowhere near 2019 levels. I saw a post on X was like, and it said that we're at the most inventories we've had since 2019. It was like one of those doomers like, just because we're at the most, if we're significantly under, what does that mean? Right. It's like saying, we've got, I mean, I don't even know what it's like saying it's, I don't know what kind of analogy you could use there. It's like, we've got more of something that we don't have enough of, right? I mean, that's the simplest way to put it, I guess, for me there. But here we go. Let's take a look at what that actually looks like. All right, what does that look like in comparison to 2019? And this will pop up here in a second for you. Apologize about the screen here. Let's get that fixed. There it is. All right. If we look at 2019 start of the year, we're at 817,000. Okay. So yeah, we're at the most we've seen since 2019. Really, we're not though, because 2020, 763, 2020 was just such an odd year. When you annualize that out, obviously 220 dropped below where we're at right now to 437. But let's take a look at 2019, the last normal full year that we had, 817,000 at this time. We're at 650,000 active listings. Okay. So, we're a long ways away from even getting to the start of January 2019 levels, but not nearly as far off as we were to start 2024 at 513,000. Okay. You do see this first week of January a decline here. We started, this is looking from December 27th to January 3rd. So it does take it into effect a couple of the December days. And we did see a drop of 635,000 to 650 rather to 635,000. So we're at 635 right now. If we look at that first week last year, you saw a similar drop, 513,000 to 499. And then as we get into January, you see that number stabilized even last year. I mean, we kind of hung around that low level for quite some time. It took until March, April, because you got buyers coming in here January and February, picking up those new those new homes to the market. And then we didn't really see, unlike in most normal years, we didn't really see that accumulation of inventory until late summer and really into the fall. Usually come the end of the summer, you start a decline like in 2019. Okay. So how quickly are we going to start coming off of, that flat line that you typically will see in January and February? Like in 2019, by March, you started to see, and certainly by April, you started to see inventory tick up. Okay. We would love to see that happen, much sooner this year. Not seeing it to start the year, not expecting it to, we weren't expecting to see it to start the year. So 650,000 versus 635,000 to start the year. That's a 15,000 drop. Same week last year saw a similar drop. Remember, the inventory peak that we saw in 2024 was 739,000, almost 740,000. At this same time in 2015, we're at 959. So a long way to go to improve for active inventory. Still much better. We saw significant improvement versus 2024. That comes with a caveat. 2024 inventory levels come with a caveat. Okay. 40% of that gain, and we're 27% more active inventory than last year at this time. But 40% of that gain has come from Florida and Texas. Two states brought on the majority of that gain. So you might be in the Northeast right now listening to it saying, I'm just not seeing this inventory gain that we're talking about. Yeah, because there are still parts of the country that haven't experienced it. So if you're in one of those parts of the country that haven't experienced this active, tick up in inventory like a Florida or Texas really has seen and has flipped in most of those areas to a buyer's market, you have to really start watching your week over week right now in your micro market. What does this week look like versus the first week last year? That's going to help sellers decide if they need to get to the market early or if they can wait until, later on in the spring. If you're seeing more, say you see double this week, what you saw the first week in January, and then you see another double up versus the second week in January versus last year, then you're going to start to build the case where it's like, hey, I've got more inventory coming to the market this year quicker. And so while the lagging measure that we're looking at right now, I mean, these are really lagging numbers here. Like where are we at right now is really dependent on what happened the last couple of months, right? Like, we're the NFL season just came to a close and they're going to have the playoffs next week. Like the playoffs are representative of what happened the last couple months, but just because, one team's getting a bye and one team's a 7 seed, that's not representative of what's going to happen over the next 3-4 weeks. What's going to happen over the next 3-4 weeks is who's the hottest team, who's the healthiest at this point. The health barometer of an NFL team from 2 months ago today is completely different. Okay, these numbers that we're looking at right now, these are really reflective of what has happened, the dynamics of the last 2 months. They're not really reflective of what's happening moving forward. So I want to compare this first week, the second week, this month of January, when you get that data in your micro market, to what happened over that first month, and start to build the case, start to build the data set for potential would-be sellers of like, hey, we probably should go to the market earlier. I know we're in a market that hasn't seen inventory pick up, but I can't promise you by end of spring that we're going to be in that same situation. Stories change, things change, and our market seems to be changing before our eyes. I know right now with certainty, we can go out to the market, not compete with anybody, have extremely strong buyer demand, and be in the position of a seller's market. You can't say that, right, in Southwest Florida or Texas in particular right now. New listings is going to be one of those things that helps drive those conversations. Certainly for buyers, new listings is going to be extremely helpful. New, fresh inventory to look at, not the same repeat back on market stuff that you saw in 2024, but new, fresh. It's also going to be able to help sellers decide, should they get off the fence now or can they wait? New listings did drop this past week. We saw 18,000 new listings for this past week. And we saw previous weeks 35, 31. That's just what you're seeing there is just a difference in when the holiday week really happened. Okay. This was think back the last couple of weeks, this is a holiday season that was kind of like middle, right? You had the Christmas holiday middle week. You had the New Year's holiday middle week. It kind of felt like it killed 2 weeks of productivity. And you're seeing that now with this first week of the year being unlike most, first weeks, because you have a mid-December, December 27th to January 3 here in this data set. And they really, 2023 and 2022 markets, that final week into January really was felt, on the back half of the 23 and 22 calendar. So you're seeing those drop offs here. I expect a big boom up on the second week, probably let's call it, north of 40,000 on the new listings. And that's why I asked the question in the live chat. Let me know, like, are you seeing signs of that where it's going to be a big week for listings? Is this week going to beat the first true January week of new active listings coming onto the market in your market versus last year? Are you already having conversations that would give you anecdotal evidence that, this week in my market is going to be bigger than the last couple of opening weeks we've seen? Price reductions would actually suggest where we're starting at 34.9%. Okay, we started 2024 below that number. That would actually tell me that since we have more price reductions than last year, we have more inventory, that we also have sellers that want to sell. We have serious sellers out there right now, and we have serious buyers. If you're on the market at this time, or if you're in the market shopping, you're serious. You're somebody who's, not just messing around, not just completely going for aspirational pricing, dipping the toes, testing. You're somebody who really wants to get the job done. That's what that higher, price reduction versus 24 tells me. All right. Mortgage application. We saw a nosedive last week on mortgage applications. Again, holiday week. Let's get beyond the holiday and then really test this thing out. We saw multiple weeks where 2024, those started right here, like really in September. We saw really the rest of the year over year versus 23 perform better on mortgage application, despite the interest rate not being great. So we'll get past this holiday week and see where we perform. Look at the last 2 years, 24 and 23. Mortgage application data really pops mid-January, early February. That's when you get some of the most significant increases on mortgage applications, is going to be these next few weeks. Talk to your lender partner. Like, hey, when do you get the most mortgage applications? January, February, super hot month for intaking applications, intaking interest. I talk to your local partners. Hey, over the next few weeks, are you seeing more or less? Are you seeing more or less versus, last year? That's going to be another data set for you to use in these conversations. For buyers, how much, competition are they going to have? For sellers, how much demand are you going to have for your product? Demand seems to be improving slightly. We're going to look at total pending home sales here with NAR's data in just a minute. According to Altos, we've got 5% more single family homes in contract right now than last year. So 2025 starting out with 260,000 plus homes in contract across the country. Think about that number, 260,000, pending, in escrow, whatever the hell you call it, homes that are contracted between seller and buyer, 260,000. And I think there's 1.5, 1.6 million NAR realtors, and that doesn't also include the agents outside of NAR. Just a little like, hey, why so many? All right, let's take a look at pending home sales. And speaking of NAR, perfect segue here. Let's look at the pending home sale data just released by NAR. Index is sitting at 79. That's a 2.2% month over month increase. This index, which is pending home sales from NAR, we want to hit 100, okay, on the index. That would be a healthier level of activity. It's activity relative to 2001. Think about how many more buyers are aged up to buy a home. They're at buying age right now versus 2001, and we're 21 points off on the index versus 2001. We're in 2025. Long way to go on pending home sales and activity and affordability, obviously, in this current market. The southeast, from Texas to Florida up to DC and the Carolinas and that whole south to southeast section or region of the country is performing the best. Also has the most inventory, so easier for buyers to have selection and choice. You got a 94.5 index in that south, but they also performed the highest on the month over month increase on pending home sales at 5.2% in that region. Again, a lot more selection. You go to the Northeast as a home buyer, it's easy to get discouraged. It was easy for a lot of home buyers in the Northeast to take the holidays off because they've been on a grind for months. In some markets, there's less than still 2 months, less than a month and a half level of inventory in some of those markets. Jersey, Connecticut, parts of New York, Rhode Island, parts of Massachusetts, really still struggling to come back from these historically low levels of inventory. Northeast at 67.8. That's the second lowest of the four regions on the index. Month over month performed the worst. So flip side of the South on the month over month, 1.3% on month over month pending home sales. The West is actually the lowest on the overall index at 64.3. Month over month did see an increase at 0.5%. Midwest, second strongest region overall at 78.1. Month over month, though, performing just behind the West at 0.4% for the Midwest on pending home sale data, according to NAR. That increase these are November numbers too. Remember, we're always looking backwards here on this data. This is lagging data, so it's not really it shows us where we're trending, but it doesn't show us what the future January, February might look like. Definitely 4 now months of increases. Year over year contract signings grew now for 4 months straight. So the 2.2% gain in November, fourth consecutive month of increases. And it's also the highest level since February 2023. So this is one of those signs. You just get a 30-year that can get closer to 6 or closer to where some of the analysis, the analysis of what 2025 might look like. you will see a market that opens up. The pent up demand is there. The would be sellers is there. We also have the most mortgage holders up over 6% that we've seen since 2019. Maybe something else that will help kind of unlock and de-thaw some of this, some of these market conditions. Okay. All right. There's your pending home sale data. We also have a report now out from Resi Club. Shout out to Lance Lambert. I think he's going to come on to Knowledge Brokers Pod here in the first quarter of the year at some point. We're going to get that date locked in. By the way, if you missed Knowledge Brokers Pod on Friday, we did our predictions for 2025. It's kind of a fun show, the prediction show. We'll link that down below. Make sure you subscribe to that separate YouTube channel. And we release that pod every single Friday. But Lance put out the 60 strongest housing markets heading into 2025. He said there are 250 largest metro housing markets that he tracks. Lance and Resi Club claim that there are 60 that are still experiencing local home prices rising year over year by 4.7% or more. Think those really competitive markets. You know, a Las Vegas is one of those markets that has kind of shocked a little bit when you get some of these time periods where you start to see markets shift and markets go high inventory. You think Las Vegas would be there with the Texases and the Floridas. Not the case. Las Vegas has been very much high in demand for a variety of reasons. So think the high demand areas like a Vegas or the low inventory areas like the Northeast or parts of the Midwest. Okay. So 4.7% is a big number. The major metros like New York, 7%, Providence. I mean, when I'm talking about the Northeast, look at these numbers. Providence, 6.7, Hartford, 6.7, Cleveland, Midwest, 5.9, Buffalo, 5.2, Chicago, 5%. Okay. So here are the housing markets with the fast rising local home prices. You've got Syracuse. Look at this in just the top, 10 or so. You got New York, Illinois, New York. Then you go California. Okay. Santa Clara, San Jose, an anomaly, high demand market, obviously. Then you go back Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, then Green Bay, Wisconsin, gearing up for, I don't know, any Green Bay fans here? Jordan Love, is he okay after hurting the hand? Maybe that number goes down if they lose in the playoffs. I don't know, but Green Bay at 7.2%. You got Indiana, you got New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York again. Then you go to Norwich, New London area of Connecticut at 6.8. Then you're in New York again. Then you got, Kansas in there. So you just have so much Northeast driving the top of this number. And so those areas, you're talking to homeowners, like they're just getting ridiculous gains. This top 60 list is just littered with either, heavy Northeast, some Midwest, and then just basically some anomalies there. So you've got markets when we talk about these overall macro numbers and some of the overall macro numbers that your clients and customers and the people that you're talking about making a move in 2025 with, they're going to be seeing headline numbers from the national media that are, maybe not reflective of what's going on in your, local markets. One of the reasons why I really believe you've got to be strong on knowing the macro data so that you can explain what they're seeing, what they're hearing, because they're only going to hear macro. Okay. Unless they're like, following your YouTube or following every single email that you send out. Most homeowners, most buyers in a market are going to be more familiar with what they see on the macro, what they see in their news feed or what have you, than they are on those detailed micro neighborhood data analysis that you can give them. And when you look at the country, I mean, it just looks completely different right now. This Gulf Coast area is going to take a beating on price because they're taking a beating on inventory. Okay. But you compare that area here to what's going on in the Northeast, it's completely different. It's night and day. Okay. So this is and listen, all the charts that we use and all of the data, even the hot sheet show notes that we use here on this show. So every single day, if you're new to the show, every single day, we upload all of these hot sheet show notes. So many of you guys, BAMX members, are copy and pasting this data into the conversations, the communications, the emails that you're having with your database. This is all available for BAMX members as well as the charts. Just today alone, we have over 10 charts and these hot sheet show notes all uploaded into BAMX under today's hot sheet. So BAMX members, grab that, use that here as you enter this week and start having these types of conversations. If you're not in BAMX today, use code HOT to get 10% off BAMX. We deliver done for you content on top of all of this every single Friday. And we've got office hours every other week. We have office hours this Wednesday with myself and Zudelio, the Zudelio platform you get as a member of BAMX as well. There's just so much BAMX members are benefiting from, and it's a ridiculous price. When you go to checkout, you'll see what I mean. So there you go on the home price gains. We'll put that data inside of BAMX. One last thing I do want to show, speaking of Zudelio, is where we're at here first week. This is the week ending of January 3rd. So all the data we kind of looked at today ending January 3rd. What were the top housing markets for cash offers? Okay. Where are maybe investors coming in or more cash? Okay. And you see, I mentioned Vegas earlier, like such a high demand area right now, Las Vegas, week ending January 3rd. The number one cash offer market in the country. This data is sourced directly from Zudelio, which Zudelio, so many BAMX members are using. Generate 4 offers to compete with iBuyers on every single one of your listings, and the tool helps you just get more listings in general. So BAMX members, you get Zudelio absolutely free. LA coming in at 2 on top housing markets for cash offers. Orlando, San Diego, Palm Springs are the top 5. So you have luxury mix in there. And then Orlando, Vegas, I'm thinking more, high demand investment future opportunity mixed in there as well. St. Pete's seeing cash offers. St. Pete's prices, inventory high. Storm, just rising. Even despite Storm was going to have a rising level of inventory. Not as many people moving to Florida last 12 as the previous 36. And then you've got that store. So you've got people that want out of St. Pete now. Cash offers seeing opportunity. St. Pete not going anywhere long term. Henderson coming in at 7. Seattle 8. San Antonio 9. And then Fort Myers, similar to what I just said about St. Pete, you could say about Fort Myers coming in there at 10 on the cash offers. All right, let's take a quick look as we enter the first true week here of 2025 on where we're at on the 10-year. I mentioned the 10-year, earlier. It's pretty gross. Like, close your eyes if you're actually watching and not just listening. It's 4.622 to start here on this January 6th. I mean, the last day alone, we've seen an increase. The last 5 days, you're seeing a 5-day high here on the 10-year. You're seeing a 1-month high here on the 10-year, basically coming in at 4.622. Not going to be a good start for the 30-year fix. We're going to start the year somewhere at, around, or maybe even above today, this level of 7.1 that we've been at. The Freddie Mac 30-year fixed weekly came in on January 2nd at 6.91. So we're talking about, high 6s, low 7s for almost every single buyer out there if they're not buying points and all of that. We're not at the peak levels that we saw in April, but outside of April 2024, last 12, highest level on the 30-year fixed. And, we'll hope that some of those analysis are right, that we could start to see that trend down. Maybe it's a good thing that the Fed here in January isn't likely to cut. According to CME Group, that next Fed meeting is 23 days away. They've got a 90% chance that there's no cut when they meet on this next Fed meeting, which is January 29th. And maybe that's a good thing, because the last 3 times they've cut, we've seen the 30-year fix go up. So, hey, maybe they don't cut and we can get the 30-year fix to start moving down. If you're new to the show, thanks for joining us. Hit the subscribe and the notification bell. For those of you that want all the data that we use in this hot sheet, Make sure you sign up to BAMX. Use code HOT to get your discount there on BAMX. That link will be down below. And do the show every single Monday through Thursday, live at 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. You know the deal in between. We'll be back tomorrow, and I look forward to being with you all then. Until then, of course, have a great Monday and toodaloo.